Audacy.com/event. We're getting to our Beltway Blitz in just a moment on Grant and Danny. We'll be covering the Commanders, among other teams. They're trying to draft a generational QB. We want to remind you, you need to be thinking about your next generation. As the exclusive sponsor for our show, the Remote, will guide you and your family in the right direction to help you draft your will, set up your trust, create a healthcare power of attorney, schedule a free consultation with Gary's estate planning attorneys at KMLawyers.com. Be sure to tell them Grant and Danny sent you. Score yourself a discount. That's KMLawyers.com. Let's kick off our Beltway Blitz on the Diamond. And to discuss the Nationals, Kevin Franzen will join us in a moment. Right now, you and me doing the heavy lifting, Danny. Here's why. We got news, and Franny's probably in the press conference right now. Just coming out within the last few minutes, Davey Martinez talking over at Nats Park. Josiah Gray update, playing catch up to 75 feet. Martinez said they have not yet mapped out his full timing yet, but they would have to treat Gray with a little bit of caution as they bring him back. And then Keibert Ruiz, he's been sick. He hasn't played in a few weeks.
Yeah, goodness.
It's like the longest illness in the history of the world. He's going to have a rehab assignment in AA Harrisburg. Sounds like he's probably going to be there a couple days and then activated later in the week, according to Mark Zuckerman of Masson Sports. Speaking of Masson, you watch Kevin Franzen on the telecast with Bob Carpenter every single night. Franny, you just heard some of those updates on Gray and Ruiz. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah. Was I supposed to hear it?
I assumed you'd heard him. Gray coming back. He's throwing from 75 feet. And Keibert Ruiz, rehab assignment starting in AA tonight from his illness.
I mean, it's great stuff, right? I mean, just sort of fact that what is this last couple of weeks provided? We've seen a lot of quality depth come up from the minor leagues, or guys that are on the roster that have stepped up in the situations, right? Like Riley Adams has done just a tremendous job. You know, but now that Keibert's been down, he's been getting that full run. But I mean, defensively, he's been just fantastic. You know, Mitchell Parker coming in and doing the things that he's done for Josiah. So it's like, take your time, make sure you guys are right before you guys are here. And I think, you know, Riz and Davey have that luxury right now because of how well those guys have performed in those spots.
Franny, get into Mitchell Parker, what you've seen from him. He's been electric, absolutely outstanding. Strikeout per inning, only let up 2 runs here over his 12 innings pitched in these 2 starts. He's been outstanding.
He has huge stones. Sorry to say it, but he does. I mean, just for the fact that, like, the first 3 hitters in the Dodgers lineup, Hall of Famers, right? That's no doubt. You could make an argument for probably two of the 3 1-2-3s in the Houston lineup are Hall of Famers, or will be. You know, when you think about Altuve, Yordan, but you combine those guys and it's like 7,500 hits, 1,200 homers, 3,000 walks, and he didn't walk one of them. What does that tell you? Like, it tells me that the kid was all in, and I'm not, you know, he's not scared of the situation. Now, maybe had he made mistakes and got hit hard, maybe he's different, but he didn't, you know, and watching a guy gain that confidence within those 2 starts was just tremendous. And they have like 2 different types of starts, right? Where in LA for your debut, couldn't find the feel for that split. And that's a big pitch for him. And he was able just to go through with the 4-seamer and curveball. That almost tells me more, right, than what we saw the other day. Because the other day, it was special stuff, right? The split that he had thrown against the Astros, it just, you don't see it out of left-handers too often, right? And for him to actually have it, be able to have 3 pitches, like a little easier for a guy than having just 2 pitches against that lineup that he had against LA. There's a little moxie there, right? Being able to do that. I just, man, wasn't that the coolest thing?
Yeah.
It seriously was.
Sub 75 pitches. 7 scoreless.
I don't get it.
Yeah, Nats pitchers never done that.
That wasn't fluky.
How about, speaking of not fluky, Jake Irvin's throwing the ball really, really well right now. Consecutive 6-inning starts, 5 hits and a 1 run earned for him with 11 Ks. Last couple trips to the rotation, you know, the stuff's really good. His fastball at times has touched 98 this season. He's made a leap, it seems like. What are you seeing from him?
Another one of those things where the confidence on every experience helps, right? Like just being able to get through some things. The start against the A's was fantastic, but it was a start against a lesser offense, and for him to repeat it against a great offense in the Dodgers, that was awesome. Because look, we saw it against the A's where he was 93, 94, and he was fantastic because he kept it all the way through. And it worries you a little bit when he's 95, 96, 97 early, because the second inning, third innings give him trouble this year. And so against the Dodgers, being able to go 95, 96 in the first, 95, 96 in the second, and then in the sixth inning, 95, 96, I was like, whoa, right? Because we haven't seen that. Him be able to sustain it like that. So that was awesome. Again, are they going to have their rough outings? Absolutely. Most pitchers will say that they will. But the fact that he got through the Dodgers the way he did, I think adds another piece of that confidence. And it's one of those where you're just excited to see him the next time, because do you take it for granted what you did, or do you just say, I'm going to build off that? And those are the things that we continue to ask, because again, I've told you I'm more realistic, and then I'm going to be just fanboy on everything. I hope they continue to do it, but I understand if they don't, consistently, because it's every experience time through, the league is going to be different for them until they get in that, that comfortable place, which I hope Jake's getting into that comfortable place. I enjoy it. I enjoy the moments that they're out there. Let's just say that.
Brandy, always great to have you on, buddy. Appreciate the time, dude. Be well.
You guys are awesome.
Oh, you're sweet.
You're a good guy.
You're so nice, Franny.
Good guy, great guy. That was short.
Well, that's the blitz. Huh? That's the blitz, bro. The blitz. You're on, you're off in 5 minutes. This is not a leisurely stroll. This is the blitz.
This is like the fast-paced thing.
You pack a punch, man.
Dude, that's why I love you guys even more.
Let me ask you this: do you get more steamed up for a 4 or 5 minute blitz hit, or do you want a 20-minute
let it breathe,
let your hair down,
wax poetic?
Well, just to be honest with you boys, you and I, it's like us drinking beers. So I mean, I'm good with a 20-minute if you want. If an hour, if we're good, 5 minutes, that might not get everything out.
All right, that's good to know.
That's noted.
Let's note it. Maybe you could come by on your way over to the ballpark, and we could do it in person.
You just tell me when.
All right,
tell me when.
We got you.
I'm all about me. You know me.
Brandy, thank you.
Bobby.
Look good, play good. Watch him tonight, Bob Carpenter. And if you want to listen to the Nats, you could also listen to the Nationals. This evening, they are on 99.1 because we got Caps playoff hockey. Let's get after it.
Hit it. Our guy Ben Raby, Caps Radio Network. Ben, what's got to be different here in Game 2?
The need to generate more offensively. Stop me if you've heard that one before, but that would be among the priorities for the Capitals. The power play unit that went 0 for 4 Sunday afternoon in Game 1, and it wasn't only that they went 0 for 4 in 8 full minutes and didn't score. They didn't generate very much as far as momentum off those opportunities. So for one, you're looking to generate more offensively, looking to clean up the power play. And then I think the other thing worth noting is the other night kind of unraveled pretty quickly, right? The Rangers scored 3 times in a span of just over 2 minutes. I think there's a thought collectively on this Capitals bunch for a lot of these guys, first time experiencing this stage, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah, they have the veterans. They have a whole lot of newbies as well. Just don't let it unravel too much, kind of. The momentum swings are pretty big in playoff hockey. And the other night, bang, 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 it got away from them pretty quickly. You got to make sure if you do fall behind 1, maybe 2, you nip that in the bud and you don't let it unravel as it did on Sunday afternoon.
Ben, how did they keep Ovi from a shot on net?
Yeah, he had his attempts. I mean, 5 of them were blocked. They defended him very well. I will say what the Capitals did have an issue with the other day, that line in particular, Ovechkin's line, was an interesting matchup Peter Laviolette went with on the Rangers side. He matched up almost strength for strength. He put one of their top lines, Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, Alexei Lafreniere. That's a scoring line for the New York Rangers. The idea behind that was to spend much of their shift in the Capital zone. In other words, make Ovechkin and the Caps top line defend. And I think you give the edge to the Rangers in that matchup the other day. Again, the Rangers, the home team, they have the advantage of the last change. That was part of it. They put their scores against the Capitals headliners, and much of that was spent in the Capital zone. And then when Ovechkin did have the opportunity in the offensive zone, the time and space was taken away very quickly. Again, I think he had 7 attempts, 5 of which were blocked by the Rangers.
So it's easy to say get more offense, but I would have prescribed that in the offseason this past, before the season started, man, or any kind of point during the year. This is sort of who they are, even as they were, fighting to get into the postseason. It was as if they were ringing the bell or lighting the lamp a million times over. To me, it's got to be a little grimier and lower scoring in that way. How can they muck this game up? I mean, you don't want 6 penalties called in the first, like it was in the first period the other night, but that to me is the path, is to not try to outshoot the Rangers, to try to make the Rangers miserable. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you want to slow it down. You want to clog it up as much as possible. And to that point, it's almost cliche to say you got to score first. It's easier to play with the lead. But this Capitals team especially, we have seen this season that when they fall behind a goal or multiple goals and they're forced to play catch up and they're forced to open things up, it usually leads to bad things at the other end of the ice. Hence, a lot of those blowout defeats we saw late in the season. Conversely, you get a lead. It allows the Capitals in turn to play more of their slow it down brand that they would rather play, engage physically, tighten things up and play a little bit more of a conservative, sometimes boring brand of hockey. But that's what it took for the Capitals to get to the postseason. It's likely what it will take for them to make it, a competitive series as well. And real quick, worth noting as well, no Sandin, no Jensen still on the back end. They're both going to be out still tonight. And when you think of Jensen and Sandin, they're not necessarily goal scorers themselves, but they are 2 guys who are able to scoot. They can move the play up ice. They can move the puck up ice. And that leads to offense at the other end of the ice. And I think those 2, the absences of Sandin and Jensen, again, not necessarily headliners for the casual fan, but you can't underestimate or downplay what those losses mean for the team, particularly as they look to transition and move the puck up ice.
Yeah, along those lines, what's your anticipation on the blue line? It looked like they were basically going to let Iorio play very little. He had a couple shifts before he got thrown out there in the second period. Same kind of deal for Lucas Johansson this evening. How do you envision his role?
Yeah, also limited, not unlike Vinny Iorio the other day. You're right. He was injured early in the second period. It was only at that point his 3rd shift of the night. His ice time was very limited. I'd anticipate more of the same tonight from Johansson. And, to that point, you're going to lean again on Carlson, on Baravari, on Trevor Van Riemsdyk, even Alexeyev to an extent. And then you've got Dylan McElrath, again, not a household name, in the lineup the other night. Only 3 games in the NHL this season, a fixture with Hershey. That said, McElrath is a big boy, and he held his own the other day. It was limited minutes, but I thought he showed himself well, and a big boy that could potentially contend if needed with Matt Rempe, who on the Rangers side was a handful in limited minutes on Sunday afternoon as well.
Hard to predict here, Ben, but would you anticipate this game gets officiated differently, especially because of the chippiness that ended up towards the end? I mean, they couldn't wait to call 1,000 penalties in the first period. Then a lot of stuff got let go, and then everyone's mad at each other. How do you think this is going to go in that way?
Yeah, I just think it might be officiated differently, and that more will go uncalled, you could say, early on. I think that was a head scratcher, and that affects all parties. That affects both teams, a lot of players up and down both depth charts. It's just, players acknowledged it. It was surprising. We were surprised the other day. It didn't. I'll be honest, fellas. The other day didn't feel like a playoff game. The atmosphere at Madison Square Garden was terrific. That felt like a playoff vibe. That felt like a playoff game. But the game itself, what we watched, it didn't necessarily have that immediate physicality, the tone setting you come to expect in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the animosity, the message sending being, built in early on, the first 10, 15 minutes of a first period of a game one. We didn't see that. It was very tightly called. There were very tight calls, again, against both teams in that first period. I'd anticipate tonight just to revert to the norm a little bit, what we've seen in other series around the league over the past few days. I would anticipate, fewer ticky-tack calls, if you will, and as a result, that could lead to, more of the playoff brand of hockey we're used to seeing.
2 things. 1, no Rempe goals tonight. 2, I heard Freda Felcher is going to be at Madison Square Garden.
I remember you talking about her.
Freda from Cranston.
That's her.
There it is.
Ben, thank you, buddy.
Felcher. Yeah. Appreciate it, fellas.
See you. Anytime I can get a Freda Felcher in reference, right in there when Ben Raby is like elbow deep.
He's trying to sign off. He's like,
breakdown.
he's doing all the different pregame stats and things. And he's like, Freda Felcher from Cranston?
Caps playoff coverage sponsored by our friends at PVI Office Furniture. Get to their showroom in Frederick, Maryland today. Score big with their Power Play Playoff Special. 20% off your new office chair. Fast, excellent, affordable. Business grows with PVI. The Blitz grows with Michael Phillips. Audacy Sports, Richmond, our pal Miguel Felipe. Are you buying what seems to be selling right now? Jaden Daniels, number 2 to Washington.
Well, we've heard it from everybody except the team, right? So it's got the Ben Johnson vibes. I certainly understand why people would be wary of that. So I understand why people aren't rushing into the bank. I also think this has been the logical end from the very beginning. So I definitely nod along when I hear it. I think, yeah, it makes sense to take Jaden Daniels. He's the most dynamic, best playmaker on the board, and you pick at number 2 and you need a quarterback. So it makes it easier for me to nod my head. But you know what? I'm still going to wait and believe it when I see it.
Give me percentage chance. We'll do a couple percentages here, Miguel. Percentage chance they trade back.
Man, I think the J.J. McCarthy buzz has really foiled that to a large degree, right? So we talk about trading back, Danny, and it's who you trade back with as much as what you get in return, right? If you trade to 11, so you're trading with the Vikings, you get first-round picks in the future. The Vikings are a well-coached team that's playing to win right now, and I think can make the playoffs this year and in future years. So you may be picking late in the first round in those years. On the other hand, I love trading with the Raiders at 13. That's honestly my favorite outcome here. Get a couple Raiders first rounders in the future. They're playing in a division with Patrick Mahomes. I think he'll probably be good next year. Harbaugh's in the division now. I think he'll win at the NFL level. You got a desperate Sean Payton. Even if that team's not any good, I think they'll still string together some W's. That's a team that might be picking towards the top of the draft for the next couple of years, right? So that excites me, the possibility of getting to 13 where you can probably still get a really good offensive tackle or a J.J. McCarthy and then pick again in the future. But, what are you going to do about quarterback, right? If you can guarantee me McCarthy's on the board at 13, I will sign up for that right now. But you can't do that. You don't know he's going to be there. And so that's why I think there's a 98, 99% chance they turn in the card and they pick and they don't trade down because you have to leave this draft with a quarterback. It's not optional.
Percentage chance they end up with J.J. McCarthy.
That's the one. I really do think it'll either be I'm giving Daniels 90% of the pie. I'm giving Jaden or JJ 9% and Drake May 1. I do think this is, Adam Peters is not going to be afraid to go with his gut here. And if they really do love him that much, and they might, I think he's the surprise selection. I don't think he's coming, but that's the guy I've got my eye on for sure.
Phillips, did you know that Danny prefers filet to ribeye?
What's he doing? What are we doing here?
Just eating well. That's all. I'm not sitting there in a fight with my steak, cutting off gristle and having my jaw get sore from the cut of meat. That's all.
It's smooth like butter and it has no flavor. Like I'm
sure
so glad we sat down at this nice steakhouse to have something that doesn't taste like anything. Why don't we put some more flavored butter on it so that I can maybe taste something?
Yeah, sorry about that. The flavored butter, by the way, I'm sure it's the most expensive for no reason at all. But here's the thing for me, though, Miguel. I am a fancy boy, and I will fully admit that. I'll acknowledge it. I like to get a little surf and turf. I like it when they're both on my plate. If it's the ribeye, then that's what you're doing. Like that's the entire night, which is not bad. It's still very, very good. But to me, give me that filet because it lets everyone know that I'm fancy.
Man, I just want to make clear I'm 1,000% Team Grant here, and it's not close. But you draw attention to a very important issue roiling America right now, and I would endorse any candidate with a platform of making smaller ribeyes available. Because I am a steak guy, but I'm a sides guy too. And when you get the ribeye, it really cuts into your side time. And that's you can get a 6-ounce filet. Why can't you get a 6-ounce ribeye, America? Why can't we do it?
Hear this out, though, right? You get the ribeye, 14, 16 ounces. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You get your delicious sides. Maybe you want to go mashed potatoes. Maybe you want to go mac and cheese. Maybe you're going to do a little cream corn, Danny. I know
there you go.
That.
Thank you, Grant, for mentioning
right?
Thank you. Yep.
And then you take some of that steak home when you can't finish it, Michael. Have you thought about that?
It's tough for me to take $30 a steak home. That's a tough pull for me. I'm nothing if not cheap at the end of the day. That's a tough pull for me to be sitting there that steak and say, why don't I eat it, cold on my iceberg lettuce tomorrow at home? It's a tough pull for me.
Phillips, thank you. Much appreciated.
Always a good time.
Always good to have him on the Beltway Blitz. Why was Ryan dabbing throughout that segment? Somebody needs to tell me what the hell's going on here.
That was behind me. I didn't see it. What was happening?
Is it because we're on camera now? Like twice, Ryan just dabbed in the background. What were you doing?
So, okay, I sent this out in a massive group thread, and all my friends are watching on YouTube right now. So they're probably about half the viewers. They're commenting. They're going crazy. They're saying, hit the dab, hit the dab.
Okay.
So I hit a few dabs.
Who's saying hit the dab?
Nobody in the chat, but on his group text.
I see.
Yeah.
But the first time he just dabbed, and we made awkward eye contact, and he was just kind of smirking. And
it was tough.
All right, what's that about? And then right at the end of the interview there, he just dabs again like he's an 8-year-old.
real excited about
at a baseball game.
Michael Phillips' answer about steak.
What are you in second grade? What are you doing with a dab? So someone wanted you to hit the dab.
Yeah, they wanted me to hit the dab. They got a little excited.
Why is that the verb, by the way? Like to me, I think dab is a verb, like two dab, one dabs. I have dabbed, right? You can just dab. Why do you have to hit the dab? Turns it into a noun.
Oh, that's a good
See
question.
what I'm saying?
I don't know. Who said that, me or him?
Well, I'm not criticizing anybody, but I didn't know we had. Ryan said hit a lot there.
I just had to hit the dab.
So watch this. Dab.
I could dab.
So you did. That's the verb. See what I'm
Here's what I
saying?
like to say. Dabbing on these folks. I like to say.
That's what you say all the
Ryan's
time?
out here dabbing on folks.
Is he?
I don't know.
That's what you say?
That's how I feel
You
about
say
it.
that?
That was your Beltway Blitz. Next on G&D, Jordan Reed, not the tight end, but the draft expert we had on the show.
That is right, yes.
The other day. He actually, in his most recent mock that dropped yesterday, he dabbed on some folks with his mock draft.
He was dabbing on them.
He says Washington will take Jaden Daniels, which is fine. Everyone's saying that. His logic for why they're going to take Jaden Daniels, though, didn't really make a lot of sense. We'll explain next. Grant and Danny on the Fan.
I'm Earl Forsey. We were brought to you by Paul Henry's Window Installation, your clear home improvement choice. Stanley Cup playoffs resume for the Capitals tonight. Another one in New York. Caps hoping to bounce back after the Game 1 loss on Sunday and even their series against the New York Rangers. Caps and Rangers tonight, 7 p.m. from Madison Square Garden here on The Fan. Baseball, Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers in town this week. First one against L.A. tonight. That's a 1-2 straight. And 3 of 4, that's at 645 over on the Team 980 and Bloomberg 99.1. And then it's all about the draft a couple of days away from Thursday night's round 1. Reports today saying teams are calling the Commanders hoping to trade up, but Washington telling them they are not interested in moving off the second pick. This April, get 10% off each window and a 5-window minimum and 10% off each door at Paul Henry's Window Installation. Schedule your free estimate today at paulhenryswindows.com, your clear home improvement choice. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Earl Forsey on The Fan.
In a half hour, right at 5 o'clock, 10 draft questions in 10 days. The countdown is almost over. Just 2 days away from round 1 of the NFL draft. What are the Commanders going to do at number 2? Everyone only wants to talk about quarterback, but they got business to tend to with 8 other selections. So we'll get to our burning draft question of the day coming up at 5 o'clock. Danny, I know this is something, though, that drew your ire. You came in earlier today. We were talking about what we wanted to hit on this show today. And Jordan Reed of ESPN, a draft expert we both like a lot, who was on this show, said they're going to go Daniels over May. Now, he prefers May. He told us a couple days ago he's got May higher on his board. But at that time, he told us he thinks Washington's going to go with Jaden Daniels. It was his write-up in his mock draft today that frustrated you a little bit because one of the reasons he thinks they're going to go Daniels just doesn't seem like something they should care that much about.
Indeed. And of course my computer decided to take a rest here at the moment as I'm trying to read this. But the synopsis is, well, Corny, you guys grabbed this for me, by the way. The synopsis is basically, it gives them a chance to be good right away. They added a bunch of veterans this offseason to improve their talent level, which they did. But you and I both know this isn't we're a player away type offseason. This is, we're 50 players away, or give or take, right? Maybe not quite 50. We're 38 players away. We're not filling every hole right now. And his point was Jaden Daniels gave him the best chance to succeed in the short term.
So I pulled it up. Pick number 2, Washington Daniels. Here's what he says. This pick will likely come down to Daniels and UNC's Drake May. Not newsy there. Considering the Commanders' veteran additions this offseason, they seem to believe they can win right now while still establishing a foundation for the future. Daniels is the guy who gives them the best chance for early success, showing excellent deep ball passing and rushing ability. He averaged 11.7 yards per pass attempt last season and threw 40 touchdowns. Translation, if they're in win now mode, Jaden Daniels should be the guy they take because he allows you to have more immediate success.
I found that really puzzling. Now, again, I'm a Jordan Reed fan. Both the tight end, frankly, and the draft analyst. I just don't see it that way at all. And my worry is that is how they see it, right? In other words, I don't think you have the offseason that you just had if you're Washington without acknowledging we are eons away. We are not a quick fix away. We're not one trade or one running back or one wideout or one tackle away from being the best team in this division. We got a long way to go. We kind of punched above our weight class even to win a few games the way that this team did last year. There needs to be a major talent inflection, induction, by the way. And they just don't have that at this point. There was no way to get it this one off season. You could have spent every dollar and been a little bit better, but not good enough to be up there with Dallas and Philadelphia, presumably, and then San Francisco, and then some of the best teams in the AFC. The path really is about this quarterback being really good, and it would be encouraging and make you feel confident that he'll be good in the future. Years 2, 3, 4, and 5, maybe when you're really ready to make that push as he's on his rookie deal, you could build a great roster. The guy that's going to be the best in a couple of years. Oftentimes, it looks like C.J. Stroud, not many have, but where you're good right away, and then you get great, right? You could tell Joe Burrow rookie year was going to be pretty special. Justin Herbert rookie year was going to be pretty special. Mahomes, his first year he played. You go down the list, the guys that we now think of as part of the furniture at the top of this league at the quarterback spot. But you might be able to gimmick something up and win a bunch of games in year 1 and have a chance to compete. I'm going, no. I know a lot of fans, that's music to their ears. You tune in 17 times. You want them to win as many games as possible. That's not crazy. My point isn't to be just okay and take that first little apple in the orchard. Let's go get the best one. And that to me is a down the line thing, not a September 1st, we're going to be better marginally with this guy over another guy.
So I don't have a problem first and foremost with the assessment that Daniels is more ready than May. It seems like the prevailing wisdom.
That seems to be the consensus, right?
I think everybody seems to think that we have on the show. Maybe not everybody, but the vast majority of people seem to think Daniels is further along in his development. He misses fewer layups, kind of more consistent with his mechanics and accuracy and throwing the football. So I have no problem if that's a check mark in his column. In fact, it should be more ready,
played more college football, developed a lot more. Sure.
He's older, 5 years, a lot of games. Put that in his column as a win. That is, if we're doing the old like scale where you put a skittle in each time, you give someone a victory, and then you see which side the scale tips to. That's a Jaden Daniels skittle. It sounds like what you're saying, I totally agree with, which is if this is a major determining factor, or really in any way, a huge consideration for them, that they're trying to win sooner than later. And so Daniels, who allows you to hit the ground sprinting, should be prioritized over May, who might be a higher ceiling guy ultimately, but right away doesn't give you the same opportunity to start out as a potential winning team in year one. You're thinking about this wrong.
Yeah, because right now you got a built-in potential 1,000-yard rusher at quarterback if you want it.
Yeah, the floor is higher because he's going to make plays no matter what with his legs. I guess for me, it's really simple. I don't care that much about this season from a wins and losses standpoint.
Same here.
I care about the development of the QB for sure. And if you think Jaden Daniels can be developed better because he's a better fit with Kingsbury, because he hit it off in meetings with Brian Johnson, because you want to have designed runs in the offense and he's going to be better at that than May, who I think is still going to be adequate in that regard, by the way. People are going to be surprised wherever he ends up, and especially if it's in New England, how often that Josh Allen, like designed power offense is used with Drake May. But who cares about who's better in September, October, November this year? Forecast me out 5 years from now. Who's the better quarterback? That's who you should be drafting. And I trust this front office and particularly this GM, Adam Peters, enough to feel like that's the way they're going to go with this. They're not making a decision based on who is further along right now. That just might be what he wrote. I have a hard time believing that he thinks that's going to be a major determining factor. Fair?
That's my hope. Again, all we can do, because they haven't made a ton of comments on the record about exactly what the plan is and the like, and they're tight-lipped to their credit. They've had press conferences, though, and nowhere in there has their vision sort of been laid out, right? Remember when Ron Rivera, after a few years of roster building, whatever it was that he called it, wouldn't even commit to saying, hey, we should try to be a playoff team this year, et cetera. No one's going to hold this group's feet to the fire yet, and they shouldn't, by the way. You're digging out a giant ditch that the previous ownership and regime left you. Everybody's going to give you some time, and they should. Everyone should be very patient right now. I think most of the fan base is on that page. Their actions didn't look like a team to me that thought they were right there. You don't overhaul a third of the roster with 1 and 2 year deals for guys looking for a payday maybe elsewhere if you're a player away.
So that's the other thing, right? I would say. I think that there's a miscalculation on what their offseason meant here, right? This idea, they signed a bunch of veterans, they're trying to win right away. I disagree with that. They signed a bunch of veterans. The rest of that sentence should be, they're trying to establish a professional culture. They signed a bunch of veterans for 1 year, 2 years, to your point. They didn't sign these guys because they feel like they've got to win 8 or 9 games this year and 11 next year. They signed these guys because the team was devoid of talent, because they lacked depth at almost every single position, and because they looked at the roster and said, these guys aren't that good.
Yeah, this isn't like a Charles Haley mercenary situation going to a team that's got the best chance to win the Super Bowl. That's not what this offseason was. Name
a player. Here, will you hand me my bell over there, please?
Yeah, let me get you that bell.
My bell. We'll play a little bell game.
I'm going to go around the bend here.
Thanks. Yeah, give me that Albert.
Good shot by me.
It's Jay.
There's the Derek.
Ready to go. Thank you. Tatum. I found a Tatum.
Like Shanahan running back? Well, Tatum Bell?
Yeah, remember that guy?
Yep. You already said Jay Bell. Why do I remember running bells? Rajah Bell?
Josh Bell.
You right back at me. You hit it back way too fast.
Yeah.
You've been thinking about it really hard. I'm out.
It was a good run while we
No,
had it.
I lost it. I lost right there.
I'm going to name a player. Tell me that you are confident that guy's going to be here in 3 years.
Go.
Michael Davis, the corner from the Chargers.
I'll stop you when I'm confident.
Jeremy Chin, safety.
I will let you know when I'm confident.
Noah Igbenogany, DB from the Cowboys. Keandre Jones from San Francisco. Anthony Pittman, linebacker, Detroit. Michael Walker, linebacker from Pittsburgh. Bobby Wagner, linebacker, Seattle. Frankie Louvu, linebacker, Carolina.
That one I would say has a great shot.
I'll give you the bell on that.
Give me the bell there.
Dorrance Armstrong, edge from Dallas.
Give me the bell there.
Dante Fowler, edge from Dallas.
No bell.
Cowboys, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Eckler from the Chargers.
No bell.
Marcus Mariota, Philly.
No bell.
Zach Ertz, San Francisco.
That's a no bell.
Jeff Driscoll, backup quarterback, Cleveland.
That's a no bell.
I mean, these are, we just throw the number out. They signed 20-plus guys. These are the guys.
Yeah.
Jeremy Nichols, the running back from maybe the 49ers most recently. I wouldn't even know. Tyler Biotish, the center from the Cowboys.
That one, I think.
Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs.
That one.
Alameda Zacchaeus, University of Virginia zone from the Eagles.
Not as much that one.
Michael Dieter. I think that's a character that you do who's a German.
Yes, that's his Dieter. Yeah, that is, you know him. And him and Helmut and Lansky is the other guy.
There's 4 we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I think I hit 4 bells. They did not have this offseason to go win a Super Bowl right now. This is not about winning. They had an offseason because they didn't really have a choice. They inherited an egregiously bad roster, and they had one of 2 options. Be bad, draft a rookie quarterback at 2, let everyone kill you for 3 years while that guy failed about what a bad job you did trying to indoctrinate them, or try to build a nest to bring the baby bird home.
Mm-hmm.
They built the nest up a little bit as best as they could on 1- and 2-year deals so that they could also have a successful first draft. First time Peters, first time Newmark are doing this. They didn't want to have to draft out of necessity for need. They wanted to get to draft based on how the board fell, because I don't need a linebacker. I signed 3 of them. I don't need a defensive end. They're not particularly good, but I signed 3 of them. I don't need a safety. I brought in a couple.
You're not desperate anywhere except for 2 spots.
Right. But here's the question for you guys, MGM National Harbor listener lines, 800-636-1067 on Grant and Danny. Reed of ESPN says you got to go Daniels over May, or he's predicting rather that they go Daniels over May because he thinks Daniels better fits the timeline. Washington wants to win now. Is that a thing? And should it be a factor, if at all? We're Grant and Danny on the Fan. DC, the wait is over. America's #1 sportsbook is officially live. Right now, new customers can get started with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Then you can bet on all your favorite teams and all your favorite sports. You can do it all in an app that is safe, secure, and very easy to use, which I care a lot about. Do not miss out on $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, when you bet your first $5 on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/GP. Sign up today. FanDuel.com/GP. You're using my promo code GP at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Must be 18 in DC. First online, real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued. Non-withdrawable bonus bet expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I think they're going to take Jaden Daniels, just because if you look at the foundation that they have already set, whether that's with bringing in older guys like Bobby Wagner, some of these other players that they have bought in through free agency, I believe Dan Quinn wants to hit the ground running as fast as possible. And Jaden Daniels gives you that type of ceiling and then also that type of floor as well right away, just because Jaden Daniels is without question the better player right now. And if you're looking for somebody in the short term who is going to get you off on the ground running right now, like Dan Quinn and Adam Peters want to do, Jaden Daniels is going to be that type of guy. Now, over the long run, I just personally believe that Drake May is going to be the better prospect over time.
Jordan Reed on this show, Grant and Danny, this week, talking about his preferences and assessment, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. But it was his mock draft that dropped nationally, ESPN.com, yesterday that caught our attention. He suggests because Jaden Daniels is more pro-ready this season, he thinks that's one of the reasons why the Commanders prefer him, in that they are trying to win sooner.
That needs to be an in addition to the fact that he's the highest ceiling quarterback. If that's the case, great. I'll enjoy some early success, so it'll be fun. We'll all feel great if you've got a franchise guy that looks good right away, hits the ground running. That's all well and good. I don't care. I don't know about you guys. I'm speaking for me. This is old Randy Newye here. I don't care about that 8th win, about reaching for that golden high apple up there at the tippy top where we can eke it out and get back into the playoffs. I'm tired of doing that for the last 30 plus years. The whole point of this thing is to be great. I don't care about being okay in year one. I mean, I know maybe I'm in the minority on that. I know people just want to win and they're tired of all the losing and they're tired of the mediocrity. I get that. My point is, if this is a bonus, great. If this is the reason, then we got to scratch our head a little bit.
Juicy DC Sports Tuesday. Nats hosting the Dodgers. Nats Park, about 4 blocks from where we're sitting on Half Street. Tonight in the 7 o'clock hour, Patrick Corbin is on the hill. He'll look to lower his ERA below 8 on the season.
Does he do it? Call your shot right now. Does he get below 8?
I'll say no. I'll say he does not do that.
I'm going to say yes, because he's
Really?
he's at 8.06 right now. He's at the end of the day today, he's sub 8.
As a reminder, they're playing the Dodgers.
Maybe not today.
The top of the order: Mookie Betts,
Hall
Shohei Ohtani,
of
Freddie Freeman,
fame.
Will Smith, who is maybe the best catcher.
Yeah, he's pretty
offensively in the
good.
sport. That's the top of the order there that Patty Cakes is dealing with.
Yeah.
Of course, tonight you got the Caps right here on the Fan, Game 2 against the Rangers. We got a full preview of the game before we get out of here. Let's hit the phones. Mo's in Largo. What's up, Mo? Long
Hey,
time
Mo.
no talk.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call.
Hey, buddy.
So this is what I don't understand. The rhetoric behind or around these two young men. One gives you the opportunity to win now. The other one potentially gives you the opportunity to win later. If you can win now, why would you have the ability to win later? I don't understand it. So you're telling me he's good enough to win as a rookie, but then he's going to get worse? And here's the other question. What's a harder task, making one quarterback better or making one quarterback bigger? Because if Jaden was 15 more pounds, 20 more pounds, this wouldn't even be a discussion. Thank you, gentlemen.
No, appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All right. So I understand his point. It to me, it's the manner in which you're doing it. In other words, if you think of 2012, you introduce this revolutionary running offense where the quarterback's doing the 50 series, the zone read where defensive ends go unblocked and you're running for 50, 60, sometimes 100 yards in a game. It's a kind of offense that probably isn't sustainable for 10 years. You could do that right away, which you can't do with a not quite as athletic quarterback, even though we know Drake May is pretty damn athletic, but not like Jaden Daniels, who ran for 1,000 yards this past season in the SEC. It's basically saying a more Justin Fieldsian track, or an Aaron Rodgers track. Again, those aren't fair comps because I think Daniels a lot better than Fields. But I guess that would be the point of the because I see your problem in the logic there, Mo, and it rankles me too. I'm a Daniels guy because I don't see it as just this 1 year gimmick. I see a tremendous ceiling for a guy that can make plays for a decade plus. But that would be the logical chain there. I know that's a little bit puzzling.
Couple of things. One, he said, what's harder, making a quarterback better or making a quarterback bigger? I got the sense he was pro Daniels, yeah?
Yeah.
I think the answer is actually not what he was assuming. Like, to me, it is easier to improve Drake May as a prospect, who's already pretty talented and pretty good, than to make Jaden Daniels bigger. The idea that he could just add 12 or 15 pounds, that's not a thing. He has been trying to do that and play at a bigger weight probably his entire life. I mean, he's got a frame that is slender. Now, I'm not drafting Jaden Daniels because of his weight. I think people are maybe putting too many eggs in that basket. I do think that the hits he takes, problematic.
That's what terrifies me.
And I refuse to do this. He'll learn to slide thing. I played that game with Robert Griffin. That is a mindset. That is a mentality. To me, that is no different than saying, I'll teach Rex Grossman to stop throwing it into double coverage. I'll teach this guy, Jameis Winston, to make better decisions. I'll teach. No. This is part of the package.
It's built in.
He is built in, and it's great. It's hero ball. I'm going to make plays. That's not going away, in my opinion, at the next level. I thought incorrectly with Griffin and some other guys, but it's pretty natural. Either you're a slider, you avoid contact, you get down, Russell Wilson style, or you don't. That's my opinion on that. But I just disagree with the notion that if Daniels, let's say, was a true 220, that it's game, set, match, and it's over. Because the people that still see some of the flaws, whether it's thrown to the middle of the field or the pressure to sack percentage, did the agent still like the tweets? Is it still kind of an awkward lead up? Again, I'll be happy if they take him. I got no problem taking him at 2 because I think he's worthy of the pick. I have more concerns with him than I do May. I have more concerns with him than maybe I'd like to, taking a home run number 2 selection. But the idea that the only thing is his weight and everything else is just a slam dunk, I'll push back on that a little bit. There are still flaws. And if we want to play the Drake May game, we could do that too. He's got warts. He's got, if you want to call them like red flags, so to speak, that are precursors for potentially struggling. They exist. But for Daniels, it's not just a weight thing. There is more to it than that, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, to me, the weight is the second part of the hit thing. That's my biggest concern by far. The shots that he takes.
Well, here's why.
And if his frame was Josh Allen's frame, then I wouldn't care as much.
But here's why the weight bothers me. It is less taking the hit, honestly, when he's preparing for it and out of it. It's more you're getting landed on in the NFL. It's that Tony Romo breaks his collarbone every time it's like, think about if you're a side sleeper like I am, that like fetal position laying, when you get tackled on your shoulder and a guy's on the other shoulder landing on you, how does your body hold up? And I just can't imagine a 327-pound nose or some 299-pound edge rusher or whatever, 3-tech landing on Jaden Daniels. I just don't think that's going to go well.
Well, it's impossible not to think back then to Griffin. We know the hits that took him out, Haloti Ngata on the cutback, but think of the number of times he got folded up in these, oh my God, it's all over with type ways. And he would bounce back up because he was so pliable and flexible and obviously, world-class athlete, but you pop up until you don't, right? Until that one gets you in just such a way that derails your career. That's the thing I'm worried about more than anything else with Daniels.
Wouldn't you love, by the way, for your issue with weight?
Yep.
Be like, if only I could find a way.
Well,
to just add a few pounds.
We talk about this too when it comes to the then Redskins.
It's such a different thing.
Well, then I tasted the success. Like I know what it was like. I know what it's like to have a metabolism. I had one. And I mean, it's gone now. It vamoosed.
What was it like?
It was I took it for granted. I would come home.
You would eat something.
I came home at the end of a day of schooling and practices of sport or games or whatever. Before dinner, I'd eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's.
There you go.
I would eat dinner. I'd be hungry. 15 minutes later, I'd eat an entire box of Lucky Charms. I wake up in the morning, eat bagels, muffins, anything I could get my hands on. I would drink a Coca-Cola Classic on the way to school. I could not get over 165 pounds. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much creatine I shoved down my face, all the weightlifting, everything I could possibly do to gain weight. And I couldn't gain weight.
There was a kid in my high school who really, really wanted to go to the Navy. I don't know why, but he had to be a certain weight to get into the Navy. And he couldn't get there.
Oh.
The week leading up to his big meeting with whoever was recruiting him, he would wake up like every couple hours in the middle of the night and eat a donut.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a bit. He would sleep and he would eat a donut and he's not trying to add good weight. This is not Jaden Daniels trying to add
some weight.
12 pounds of muscle. He was literally just trying to get to a number and he couldn't do it.
A coach told me, the strength coach said, what you ought to do is how it sounded. What you ought to do is to eat a pizza right before you go to sleep at night.
That's the same coach that says "and hey" a lot, and it sounds
and
like
heish.
And heish.
And heish.
And hey. So everybody touch somebody. Everybody get on a knee down here. And heish.
It's what every strength coach sounds like, by the way. No matter where you are. It's like, hey, I tell you what you want to do. You get your butt down on the squat, young man. Get down there. Get low. Lower equals championship.
Look into the eyes of the man next to you. And heish. He's Danny. I'm Grant. Our 10 questions in 10 days leading up to the draft next. Remember, we got Benjamin Solak of The Ringer. Excited to talk to him again. He's on the show at 6, and full previews of the Caps playing game 2 in the first round, and the Nats tangling with the lowly Dodgers, who they took 2 out of 3 from just last week. The Dodgers don't want to see the Nats. They're not ready for the smoke or something. G&D.
I'm Earl Forsey. We're brought to you by Window Nation, 86690 Nation. Just a couple of hours away from more Caps hockey tonight. Game 2 in New York. TJ Oshie and the Caps hoping to bounce back against the Rangers after losing Game 1 Sunday.
It's always fun seeing how you're going to respond after a loss in playoffs. You get a couple days, especially on the road. We're all in the lounge together, hanging out, and that just continuously brings you closer together and makes those kind of bounce back performances a little more meaningful. And you want to fight for each other a little bit more the more and more you hang out.
Caps trying to even it up before the series comes back to DC for Game 3 Friday night. Game 4 Sunday night, 8 p.m. in Washington. Caps Rangers. Game 2 tonight, 7 p.m. here on The Fan. Baseball, Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers bring their road show into town to take on the Nationals tonight. Nats have won 2 straight and 3 of 4. They took 2 of 3 in L.A. last week. We'll have Nats baseball 6:45 in the team 980 and Bloomberg 99.1. And multiple reports saying today the team's calling Washington, hoping to trade up in the NFL draft, are being told the Commanders are not interested in moving off that number 2 pick. April's here. Time to call Window Nation right now. Buy 2 windows and get 2 free, plus save even more with no interest or payments for 24 months. Don't miss out. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com now. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Earl Forsey on The Fan.
He's Danny. I'm Grant. This is The Fan. Welcome back, and thanks much for making the show part of your afternoon. We're taking you up to 6:30, Caps pregame, and eventually puck drop. Playoff hockey tonight from Madison Square Garden. Caps win. It's a 1-1 series, and they're in the driver's seat, coming back to the district for 2. They lose. Got a big hole to dig out of. The series doesn't officially start till somebody loses at home, but it would be a tall order against a superior team down 0-2. It would be a must-win Game 3, obviously. More pressure early in the series than you'd like.
Yeah, do the math, right? You got to win 4 out of 6 games. You got to win 4 before they win 2. It would be a much easier series, a much more difficult road for the Rangers, quite frankly, if you're able to steal one here in Madison Square Garden. How you did it doesn't matter. They beat the brakes off of you in game number 1 by 3 goals. That's fine. A 1-goal advantage would make the Rangers think twice a little bit. I think that's the key.
The Commanders 2 days away from hopefully finding a generational QB. Don't forget to think about your next generation. The exclusive sponsors of our show, the law firm of Condori and Murad, will help you in that quest. They're going to help draft your will, set up a trust, create a healthcare power of attorney. Schedule a free consultation with their estate planning attorneys over at kmlawyers.com right now. Be sure to tell them we sent you a G&D, and you'll get a discount. That's kmlawyers.com. Real quick before we go to our 10 draft questions in 10 days. I don't know if you saw this story, but I've wanted to talk about this every day for like 4 straight shows. Did you see that the Colorado Rockies coach was in the cockpit of a flight, team charter, as they were traveling, just your normal Major League Baseball in-season travel?
Mm-hmm.
And a video came out, somebody recorded, of like the pilots doing wackies, and this guy sitting in the, it's not a driver's seat. I guess it would be the pilot's chair.
Sure, yeah.
Like the guy steering the plane at this moment. Now, luckily, we got some technology that's probably helping him. But he was just chilling there, flying an airplane at 30,000 feet, 600 miles per hour, helping get the Rockies to their next series they're going to lose.
And apparently there was some, that's obviously a violation of some rules we have set up to govern that sort of thing. Yeah.
You're not supposed to just let people sit there and do that?
Not supposed to do that,
so,
according to what I know.
I originally saw this report from this guy from 9 News out west. But he said FAA confirms to 9 News it's launched an investigation of an unauthorized person in the flight deck during a United charter. This is a United Airlines flight. For the Colorado Rockies last week. Video circulating online shows member of the coaching staff in the cockpit. We're deeply disturbed by what we see in that video, a spokesperson for the airline tells 9 News. Flight was at cruise altitude. Autopilot was engaged. So it's not like he was landing the damn thing.
Right.
He wasn't like pulling.
Which button do I push?
I don't know my terms. It's on a wheel then. It wouldn't be a, what is that? It's not a steering wheel.
So I know a helicopter has the stick. I don't know if that's what they would call that.
But they pull it.
Yeah,
out
I know what you mean.
Toward their chest, right? Pilots have been withheld from service while United does its own investigation. FAA only will confirm it's investigating an April 10th flight, but will not elaborate. So this was like right after opening day, I guess. The Rockies' first road trip of the season.
The yoke. The yoke is what it's called.
No chance.
Yep.
Is it really?
The yoke is the airplane steering wheel.
How do you spell that?
Y-O-K-E. Yoke. When Ryan lifts weights, he gets yoke.
He gets steering wheel? I
Yeah,
was going to go
steering wheel. He gets steering wheel.
I would not have had that in the office pool.
Nor I.
But there's not a lot to be said about that other than, oh my God.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Why are you doing that?
I don't know.
What are these pilots thinking, first of all?
How cool is it, man? It's the baseball team.
What is the coach thinking? It's not even that cool. It's the Rockies, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not like good players on that plane. Come on, I'm kidding.
Hey, he's doing a bit, everybody.
Come on,
he's
everybody.
doing a wacky here. Come on.
Seriously.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That's a no for me. I just need everyone, please, enough of whatever that is.
Answer me this question.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct in saying that a human has to take off and land? Like when you get in the air, I think you could pre-program and touch buttons and then not go back in the cockpit for like a few hours as long as you're flying steady and be okay. But you can't touch buttons to then you're sitting there. I'm on the runway waiting to take off. And then I do the thing where I'm like driving at a fast pace and then I lift off. You can't do everything computerized, right? Like humans have to do something.
Yeah, there has to be a person.
So they probably just had him sitting there at a time.
Yeah, that's the
where
safest
they could
time.
Just go back and get a drink and take a rest or nap or whatever they want to do, right? Presumably, there's two of you in there, so one of you can nap and the other one's on watch in case anything goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Better time than takeoff or landing.
Yep.
Let's just keep the humans at it.
Still a no. Still a no on that. I need the pilots to pilot. Let's have the Rockies just be the Rockies and sit your ass down. So easy to do. And if the captain
pilot's going to get an at-bat tomorrow.
And if the captain turns off the little seatbelt light, by all means, move out the cabin. Go see one of the pitchers.
This is your hitting coach. Didn't like the approach on your 0-2 count there. You got to choke up and put the ball in play. Speaking of approaches, I'll be putting this plane down in no time. We'll be in Texas to go lose 2 out of 3 to the Rangers.
No, thank you.
I saw that and I'm like,
comfort.
This video's fake.
The comfort.
Because this is where we are now. It's only going to get worse in the next couple of years, I think. Every time I see a video that's amazing, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, just hard to fathom.
You're like, AI.
Fake video.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw all the quotes and I'm like, fake story. But no, apparently this is the real deal Holyfield. This thing actually happened. Coach sitting in the pilot seat, flying the plane, hands on the yoke. Stop this. Stop this at once.
It's pretty simple for me.
Do you think those pilots ever fly again? Like, what is the right punishment for them?
Oh, it's a great question.
I mean, is
they have to allow it.
Offense?
Yeah.
I guess like I've seen Flight with Denzel, probably getting on the plane and flying when you're inebriated, which hopefully doesn't actually happen in real life. But is there a larger offense than just going, hey, open up the door. Anybody want to fly this thing?
Who wants to take a turn? It's like, no. Yeah,
this isn't a horse you can sit on at my daughter's birthday party.
That's a pretty big
Everyone
violation.
Takes a spin. It's a damn airplane.
Yeah.
Flying over cities and places, humans.
That's a pretty big deal to take control of that thing. They go to a lot of schooling, and they should, by the way.
I'm getting anxiety thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like pit in my stomach
So
right now.
weirdest thing coming back from Nash Vegas this past weekend, as we were, it's never happened. I've never sat in this row before. We were in row 2 of our old plane, but that old plane like broke down and they couldn't do it. So they changed planes on us. That's why we were delayed for like 8 hours. Anyway, our row 2 became row 1. There was a whole kerfuffle as to where everyone was sitting and there was extra delay, but we were right there up front listening to the stewardesses or flight attendants, whatever the right word I'm supposed to say is, I don't know. But like everything was very casual for them because that's their gig. That's their job. And I was blown away by that. Right. Again, no one did anything wrong, but just like the way they're talking, like the way anybody would talk at work, where it's like, So I got scheduled for this, but didn't get paid overtime for that. Or this number of hours, and that's before you get this status, and this was happening, but I didn't get this benefit. Everybody complains about their company. That's a normal thing. It was just interesting to see the flight attendants do that. And then they went about taking care of all the customers. There's still this locked door. The pilot thing is sacrosanct. You know what I mean? There's still this, once they go in there, do you need anything? Nope. I'll see you when we land. Slam that SOB shut. Get us there because our life's in your hands. That door's closed. Maybe that's what the pilots are talking about. I don't know. Maybe they're doing the same thing that the flight attendants are doing. But that door was closed. You see what I'm saying? And it stayed closed. There's no me going, I've always wanted to see what it looks like when we're up high. Can I take a gander? There's none of that.
I would imagine, and it's very different because it's a charter flight.
Mm-hmm.
Security is done differently. It's only the Rockies, presumably, right? They probably, honestly, have the same crew. Certainly, I would think a lot of the same attendants, but maybe even pilots for all I know. And they're familiar at this point. But I do wonder, pre-September 11th, would it have been a thing? Because I just had never flown before. I think my first flight ever was like a few months after that, if I had to guess. Thinking back to that time frame of my life, I would have been 10 or 11 years old. But could you have just gone up and met the pilot mid-flight? Like, I don't think so, right? I know it's way different now.
It's different now.
But I remember, like, in movies, a little kid the pilot would, like, call you up and give you wings. And he'd be like, you want to check out the cockpit, Danny? And you go up and you're flying. And, in a movie, maybe that's not real. I'm sure it was way more relaxed.
It was.
But, like, whatever that is nowadays, I don't care if it's just the Rockies. No, thank you.
Yeah, if Ryan McMahon wants to see, he can wait till they land.
But do you think there were times pre-9/11/01 when a random person could go into the cockpit to, like, I don't know what the occasion would be, and no one would get in trouble?
It's extremely rare. Like, there had to be some sort of arrangement. Like, it was the little kid's first flight.
But that is,
but that's my point. So the steward is
nowadays that and a buck will get you some crackers,
right? Where they would go, okay, like you got Timmy's first flight, so they'd bring him up
and
if you wanted to.
The door and
so you could see. Yeah, maybe sometimes.
I was thinking maybe
like it never happened to me.
Flight,
yeah,
maybe they do that. Like you can look at it before you take off, or after you land. The guy comes up, hey, come check this out, kid, and you're like, wow, this is awesome. But I'd like to think that the in-flight part of it is still. This is...
Yeah, everything was more casual. It certainly was.
Let's go to John, who's in Rockville. What's up, John? How are you?
Hi, what's going on, guys?
Hey, buddy.
So my company essentially owns a private plane, and we have a pilot or two pilots, a pilot and a co-pilot on staff.
So it's the same two guys every time on the plane?
Same two guys every time. I am not allowed, even though I am a vice president of the company. Essentially, it's my plane. I've never been in the cockpit except when we're on the ground or not. When we were asked once if we could go in, the pilot explained that he could lose his entire license and everything. I just think that's crazy that these people these pilots took that risk. I mean, pilots get paid good money. And for what? A picture with the Rockies manager?
Well, and not to Joan, but it's not even the manager.
Not the great time to get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even the manager. Who was it? Was it the hitting coach? Let me look it up. Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't actually.
And not if it was the manager, I don't know that it would make a big difference, right? But it wasn't. It was just a dude who I've never heard of. I think it was their hitting coach, Hensley Mullins.
Former big leaguer.
Yeah.
I'm sure. A pinch hitting Peter all the time.
I probably got his baseball card in my closet with, the corners crinkled somewhere. But yeah, it was the hitting coach, who's a 56-year-old dude. He's just like chilling in the video. He's all happy, all excited. He's like,
I bet he's excited.
Look at me, Mom. I'm flying the plane. We need to really have a conversation about never doing this again.
It's the comfort. That's the thing I'm just so amazed by for so many folks in all walks of life, not just walking into the cockpit, but just in general. I cannot believe how comfortable people are.
I just think that it's possible those guys never fly again. And I'm not team cancel people. Like, I'm a big second chance guy. I'll slap them on the wrist and suspend them, say you're not flying for a year, and we'll get you a new license in a year. You got to retake the test or whatever. But I just don't think there's a bigger thing you could do to screw up. It was a commercial this is not some random airline that I've never heard of.
Even if you like, it's not like
I fly.
Well, it's not like I'm flying private jets everywhere. In fact, I never have. But you can't do that on a private jet either. You can just walk into the cockpit.
You've never flown on a PJ?
I have never flown on a PJ.
Do you even work out, bro? Really?
I don't think I have.
Wow. That's embarrassing for you.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have admitted that.
I don't even take commercial flights anymore,
really?
Personally.
Where do you fly out of?
Bald guy energy.
Bald guy energy.
Is that some bald guy energy for you?
Oh, God, Grant sounds so bald.
JC is in Woodbridge on G&D. What's up, JC?
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, I was just flew in when you guys were talking about this conversation about the cockpit and everything, and it just sounded funny to me because you guys were doubting the ability to do auto takeoff or auto land. I'm an aircraft mechanic. It's definitely a possibility.
Okay, so like, could the hitting coach of the Rockies touch some buttons and take off and land the plane?
I mean, when you get up there, there's like 100 buttons, dude. You're not going to know what you're doing. But if a pilot, puts it in configuration and it's already set to go, you're going to be fine.
Really?
But yeah, if when you're flying and you feel like a very soothing and calm landing, yeah, that was not the pilot. That was auto landing.
I had no idea you could auto land.
Oh my God!
I just want a human to do the landing for me. I don't call me old fashioned. The AI can wait on that. Taking off, landing. We're looking for birds. Humans are controlling everything. Let's just get it right tonight. Let's do this thing. We can do it together. Brick is in Tyson's. Loved your work on the Channel 4 News team. What's up?
Yeah, back when I was a kid, I'm 55 years old. I mean, the pilot would walk down the aisle. You could go up to the bathroom. You could look right in. If you talked to the stewardess and said something nice, they would let you walk in there where they were flying. So
yeah, you could go into the cockpit. They'd open the door and you'd while the plane was flying.
You would go up to the bathroom and the door would be open. You could see in there. I mean, this is what I was.
It's a long time ago, right?
Yeah. This is like 50 years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, people were smoking cigarettes all over the place. It was a different.
Yeah, the world was different. So I again, not to get too morbid about it, but I think there were a couple hijacking events around the globe that started to change the policies. Again, this is even pre 9/11.
Okay.
But it at one point it was totally informal, where it was just sort of like, yeah, we're all in this together. We're all flying. We all want the same outcome, the plane to get to the destination. So there was this assumption that, yeah, no one's going to do anything, and nobody did. And then until someone did, and I think the rules got a little tighter.
Sneaky thing, people that listen to the show for many years know this. I'm fascinated by flying and flight and all that stuff. Bucket list thing for me is to be that hitting coach.
Is to sit
now,
there?
Yeah. 100%. Now, I will never do it because I wouldn't trust it. I'd like to land and be safe and whatever else. I would just love, I want a video from the front to see what it looks like while you're flying.
What if? So
I want to know. You know what I'm saying?
I smell what you're cooking.
Different sitting in the driver's seat of a car than in the back seat. I want to know what it looks like when you're approaching and landing on a runway at National and at Dulles, or just flying over a city. What would be really silly is to see one of these flyovers where you go over top of a football stadium with 100,000 people. I don't know if I guess I should look this up to see if there's cool videos of what the pilot saw. And maybe they're going too fast. They don't see anything. To me, I don't know. I'm just so intrigued by that.
So it wouldn't move you if you're sitting. This is really cool. Years ago, I got to take a tour of Air Force One. That was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I didn't know how all the machinations worked. You had a mobile office and a place for the president to sleep. And then
rude yet?
Go ahead.
My daughters.
Yeah. Where do they go?
Go to Sidwell, friend.
That's right, sir. They did. But that was so cool. And I got to sit in the chair. And here's me taking a picture. That wouldn't move you. You want the plane to be moving.
Doesn't do it for me.
Right.
By the way, I would be really interested in that. And I would sign up. I would pay good money to do that probably. Hey, plane is parked. We're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You get 15 minutes to just don't touch anything.
Right. Don't touch a
look
button,
around
please.
And take some pictures. Yeah, I would pay $150 to do that. Sure. But no, what I'm talking about is I want to see the ground. I'm a window seat guy, not an aisle seat guy.
Right.
I'm looking, I'm seeing everything is somehow a perfect square, just plots of land. It's crazy. I want to see you're flying over a mountain peak. You're flying over the Rockies, not the team that did this stupid thing.
Right, you don't want to fly
but
over
the
that.
actual mountains.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see there's a mountain right there. I guess I need to Go up a little higher.
Like when you're in Nebraska, you're going to make the
Right.
joke you thought the Rocky Mountains were a lot rockier than this. But John
I
Denver
want
was
to see
full
what
of
it looks like.
Yeah.
But those days are no more, unless you're the hitting coach of the Rockies.
Then you just get to walk
What a
up there.
crazy thing. All right, next, let's get into our 10 draft questions in 10 days. The countdown continues. 2 days away. We're Grant and Danny.
I'm Earl Forsey. Here's what's happening. Doesn't get much bigger than tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Caps. New York, New York, most famous arena in the world, Madison Square Garden. Tom Wilson and the Caps trying to even their series against the New York Rangers.
It's something you can never take for granted playing playoff hockey. It's my favorite time of year. It's something that, as a kid, little Tom telling these guys that you're playing at MSG in front of that building against the Rangers, you'd be pretty pumped up.
Caps trying to tie things up before the series heads back to D.C. on Friday. Caps and Rangers, Game 2, 7 p.m. tonight on The Fan. NFL draft just 2 days away. Reports are saying the Commanders have been telling teams who've called wanting to trade up they have no interest in moving off that number 2 pick. Boston Herald says offers the Patriots are getting for number 3 so far have been laughable. Baseball, Dodgers in town to play the Nats tonight, 6:45 in the Team 980 and Bloomberg 99.1. From the Crop Midcap 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Earl Forsey on The Fan.
$7 p.m. Thursday night, 1 hour before the start of the NFL draft. We will be live on these airwaves, providing for you a 4-hour plus probably draft show all night long throughout first round. If Washington trades back up into the first round and takes a tackle, we will be there. We'll be breaking down their pick at number 2 overall and really pick by pick analysis as well. We'll have the live audio from the podium, commissioner announcing every single pick, and be able to discuss each player as they are taken. So make sure you plan on listening to us on Thursday evening throughout round 1 right here on Grant and Danny. We're going to be doing that show live from Dudley Sports Bar.
Yes.
Shirlington. Great food. Going to be a ton of Commanders fans out there. So plan on coming out and hanging with us, watching the draft and kicking it on Thursday night. Speaking of the first round, the countdown to the draft continues 2 days away with another burning question. Question today, Danny. Outside of quarterback and tackle, everybody knows those are the 2 biggest needs. Need a quarterback, need a left tackle. What is the biggest need for the Commanders the rest of the draft process? Let's assume they get a QB and a left tackle. What is the third biggest need that they've got that they could address at pick 36 or pick 40?
One more pass-catching weapon. It could be a tight end. Now, I don't know if anybody's in that range. Doesn't look like anybody is, right? But a wide receiver is a very deep spot. They've left themselves some opportunity there. You could go into the season with what you got, but I think you can do better. And I think that's the essential part here. My philosophy is I will add defensive parts. I'm not saying you would totally ignore that side, but it's only when I am 100% certain that I have done everything I possibly can to ensure the success of my young quarterback. That's not something that's been the attitude around here really ever. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to change that paradigm. A tight end, I think, could really impact things. Zach Ertz is a nice story. John Bates is a blocker. I don't know if Cole Turner's ever going to be what we thought he was. Previous regime drafted him. I would love a pass-catching tight end or one more weapon at receiver to go opposite Terry McLaurin. You could kind of have 2 number 1s or a couple 1As, which could impact the defense. To me, it's one more pass-catching weapon after quarterback and tackle.
I hope they get a wide receiver. I hope they get a tight end. I want both of those. But they've got McLaurin, Dotson. They still have De'Ami Brown, former third-round pick. They signed Aladamadi Zaccheaus. Crowder flashed at times last year beyond just returning punts. Dax Milne, Mitchell Tinsley, Kaz Allen among the young projects that are still on the roster. They've got some depth there and some quality to go with the quantity in the case of McLaurin and Dotson. So I'm going to say that corner is actually a much bigger need than wide receiver. Here's what I don't know. What is Adam Peters, Lance Newmark? What does Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, think of Emmanuel Forbes? Do they look at him and say, this guy could be a stud? We're going to coach him a lot better than the DB's coach did last year, who was a high school coach from California, who was on Jack Del Rio's staff for whatever reason. We're going to get more out of him because we're going to have a better collection of coaches pulling the potential out of him. Is that what they think when they see Emmanuel Forbes? I don't know. They also might look at him and go, not really a fit for what we do. Or this is not a guy that I would ever draft, that I would sign. He's here, so we'll work with him. but I'm not sure that he's a star with what we're trying to accomplish. And if they feel that way, then it is a much bigger need even maybe than we're suggesting. Because at the moment, you've got Forbes on one edge, who got benched every time he played a couple games in a row last year. And Benjamin St. Juste probably on the other side, on the boundary. I would imagine in the nickel, you'll have Quan Martin, who plays some safety with nickel corner. But that's your big three. Martin, who couldn't get on the field at the beginning of last year. I thought he got a lot better as the year went on.
Mm-hmm.
Forbes, who did improve, but he went from you can't play him to you can now put him on the field and it's not going to be a liability anymore. And then St. Juste. That's the corner room. They added a couple of other guys. James Pierre from the Steelers. They brought in D'Angelo Mandel, and Christian Holmes is still here, the 7th rounder. They signed Noah Igbenogany, who's a former top-round pick, who's a disappointment. But where is your proven corner talent? Do you feel good? I love BSJ, Benjamin St. Juste. Do you feel good about him being your number one going up against CeeDee Lamb, traveling?
No.
And that might be your best situation. Forbes against the number 2, Quan Martin in the slot. That's a mess. They need to throw talent at that position, in my opinion. So I think outside of corner and tackle, outside of quarter, back and tackle, corner is next on the list.
So we disagreed about this yesterday, and I'm still pretty steadfast in my thinking. You're 100% right. To what end? If it's to be the best you could possibly be this year with a rookie quarterback, with a new system and a new everything, and let's see if we can be competitive in a couple of games, then let's add another defensive end, add some corner talent, et cetera. I'm not saying they should ignore these positions, but to me, philosophically, I've done that dance where I throw problems at it or throw solutions at a defense that, whether needed or not, didn't really work out. To me, the most important thing is this quarterback. The second most important thing is the quarterback. So it's the 3rd through 100th thing. Everything I do is going to be with him in mind. And if your argument is, well, a better defense will help the quarterback, I think that's tangential. To me, the thing that helps him is to not get killed, to have people that can bail him out when he's dropping back to pass on offense. Having a proficient offense in a league of offense fixes a lot of the woes and ills. And that's what I'm going to make sure that I do. So if they find a corner, good God, easy for me to say, of value after they've addressed everything you need to do on the offense, I'm all for it. But to me, to get one of those premium guys, that's going to be an upgrade from Michael Davis or James Pierre or Tariq Castro Fields or Sip Holmes, GP. Don't sleep on Sip Holmes. I think you're probably going to have to spend a more premium pick than I'd want to do.
So I'm taking one early enough. He's going to play pretty quickly for me, probably. I also think there's value in this draft at corner in that 36-40 range. I think you get a guy who could
I agree
start.
with you, actually, yeah.
Now, here's the problem. I really wish they would have signed a tackle they could start on the left side.
Same here.
Because if they would have done that, you don't have to go tackle. They don't have a choice. Every other position, they did a awesome job at making sure that they don't have a huge need. So you don't need to draft an inside linebacker or a defensive end or a offensive guard or whatever. You might want to, and the board might fall. So as the draft goes on, you do. But at left tackle, you gave yourself no option because you neglected it, that you absolutely must address it. So 36 or 40, or if they trade up into the first round, like I think they might, maybe both, 36 and 40, end up being used to get you your tackle. Whereas what would be great is had they have signed a left tackle, let's say Tyron Smith, who got the 1-year deal from the Jets. Then all of a sudden tackles like so many of these other needs where I'll grab one in the 3rd round and develop him. And at 36, you could have gone corner. And at 40, you could have gone wide receiver. Or at 36, you could have gone wide out. And at 40, you could go tight end and get the weapons you want. But I think that's going to have to come later. The good news is there are great wide receivers in this class. It's an unbelievable wide receiver class. So as they pick on down the board, I think you're going to see them come up for air with a wide receiver at some point. But I'm not sure that they're going to have the luxury of doing it in the top 40, which is frustrating because I have so many man crushes. Leggett from South Carolina. I really like Pearsall from Florida, who's the best route runner in the country. I've fallen in love with maybe, 9 wideouts in that 36-40 range that I really would like to see them go get. My guess is 67 is the wide receiver.
Interesting.
And you get whoever falls. And then at 36 and 40, you've got to address needs, which is tackle and either corner or edge. Probably corner, though.
I've seen, again, once you get into that 2nd and 3rd round range, there's so much variance up ahead, right? Where we think of it as a guy falling. Nobody's fallen. This isn't a predetermined order. This is just based on the best prognostication information that we've got. But the guys that are, picked to be a late first round pick, a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry, for example, from Alabama, if he's in round number 2, does that,
which I think he will be,
does that change anyone's thinking? So for the sake of argument, whether he's a Washington pick or not, somebody might go, oh, we want that. We got to have it. Now that's one more, tackle that might slip, or that's one more wide receiver that might get down. So Aladdin McConkey doesn't go in round 1. He ends up going middle of round 2, or, the mathematics of the permutations always start to change as picks ahead of you happen. And because they've got extra assets, the 2 third-rounders, although one's really a 4th-round pick, it's a comp at the back end via the Chase Young deal, and then the 2 second-rounders, there is some flexibility there to be able to do it. It's about that gamble. If you think, for the sake of argument, that I don't know, Kamari Lassiter from Georgia is good enough for you, and he's there at 60, and he's almost as good as someone that you would take at 40, and you've got another player that you love at 40, you don't have to do anything now. Does that make sense? Because they're offseason.
I think the corners that definitely go in round 1 are Terrion Arnold from Alabama, Quinion Mitchell from Toledo, Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Those will be the 3 guys that go round 1. There's a 4th that I think probably will. I'm not as confident. And that's Cooper DeJean, who is the cornerback from Iowa, who's a white guy, by the way, just so we're all on the same page. There's not been a white cornerback in the National Football League since Jason Sehorn.
The Sehorn Award.
So I don't know if we're comfortable talking about this or not, but that guy...
This is information.
I'm just telling you. Jason Sehorn is the last guy to play corner in the National Football League. Pre-Cooper DeJean, who just sent out a letter to all the teams and was like, hey, I can play corner, I swear. But he can also play safety. He can play the nickel. I think he's going to go in the first round.
He ran like a 4.4 something.
He's
By the
a
way,
legit punt returner, too.
His high school basketball highlights are Mac McClung 2.0.
Really?
For the record, yeah.
I haven't seen those. But I think he could go late first round. Maybe he might go early second.
He's super versatile, too. Like, he's one of those guys that can be slot corner, safety, etc. Modern-day defender.
Second round, though, is where you go McKinstry. That's Mike Sanders still from Michigan. And it's Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri. TJ Tampa, Iowa State. That bucket is where I think Washington gets one of those guys. I hope. It's somewhere in that 5th to 8th, 9th best corner in the country. I think that's probably where they're swimming in those waters. But that doesn't mean you can definitely get that guy at 67. So that's why I think if they don't trade up, I'm going to say they go tackle corner 36 and 40. And by the way, it is a real shame that they have to take corner again after they took 2 corners with their first 2 picks last year.
That's another part of it. It's not this regime's fault. That's going to be tough for me to stomach. That's a Danny issue, not a them issue.
I get it.
Yeah.
That's annoying. 800-636-1067. What is their biggest need outside of quarterback and left tackle? Your thoughts next. Benjamin Solak of The Ringer joins the show in 12 minutes. Get the latest on some of the rumors at the top of the draft board. We can mock our way through the top 10 with him on Grant and Danny. What is Washington's biggest need outside of quarterback and left tackle? Presumably the two areas they'll target with their first two picks. Perhaps both of them in the first round if they trade up. Let's go to PJ and Reston. PJ, what's their next biggest need?
Hey, guys. So I'm kind of tied between another cornerback and a pass catcher, whether it's, kind of a mix of what you and Danny were both saying, right? Danny was kind of saying whether it's a tight end or receiver or a cornerback. Now, it's a testament to how bad of a draft Rivera had last year. It's shocking that the fact that we took with our first two picks, we took cornerbacks, Jatavius and Emmanuel. These guys may still end up being good players, right? But it's such an unknown. So it just shows you how bad, can you imagine if Rivera last year simply picked Gonzalez, the kid that went to New England? All of a sudden now we got two big corners. We got St. Juice and Gonzalez. And now we definitely can just focus on the wide receiver. Now, because of how bad of a draft Rivera did, it's kind of put us in a position of multiple needs. So even though it's going to sound crazy, we took two corners with our first two picks last year. I think we need to take with that second round, the third pick overall that we have. I think we need to take a cornerback, but also we've got a couple of rounds, I think 3 rounds, third rounders. Hopefully somebody like a Lad McConkey or some club like that could fall to us in round 3, or maybe Jatavian Sanders, that tight end, if he's still available.
If he was in the third round, cartwheels and spin kicks and tripods, dude. I would lose my mind.
Here's the numbers, right? So they 236 and 40, I think everybody knows top of their head. Third round picks are 67, 78, 100. 100 is a comp pick, so that's barely the third round. It's like after the third round, before the fourth round. And remember, they do not have a fourth round pick because of the Sam Howell pick swap, I think.
Right.
So it's 67, 78, 100 in the third round. I would trade back, especially, this is going to sound super confusing, especially if they already traded up.
Isn't that clear?
Let me explain.
Don't you get it?
I think if they go up with 36 and 67 or 36 and 78 or whatever, and they go get someone at 28, 30, 32, whatever it is, I would move back with 40 and try to get like 50 and 79, or you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is. That way I have the same number of picks as I went in with in the top 100 if I could. So let's say they go Jaden Daniels 2, and then they package, I'm just making this up on the fly, but 36 and 67 to go up to like 31 or something and get a tackle at the end of the first round. Then I'm going to move back from 40 to 45 and pick something else up between, 80 and 110. And that way you could still get a tight end, you could still get a receiver, you could still get a corner, you can kind of fill out some of those needs. Let's go to Chris in Oxon Hill on the Fan. Outside of getting a left tackle and a quarterback, what's the biggest need?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? Appreciate y'all taking my call. Always great talking to you all. So, in my opinion, I feel like it's two things. One is cornerback, and then 2 is wide receiver. Reason being is because, don't get me wrong, I feel like Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin are very great wide receivers. But, I think because of Samuels being gone, I think we need to fill that void. And then also because Kendall Fuller being gone, we need a real, true number 1 that can start right away. And then, I always got to take it back to wrestling. I did want to let you all know that coming this Friday starting is going to be the draft again. And so, I know that y'all are big fans of Street Profits.
The Street Profits,
hopefully they stay on the same brand that they're on, but we'll see what happens. I always appreciate y'all taking my call. Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate you.
You too, buddy.
I was a little worried we wouldn't get the wrestling
I was like, he's run out of time, and then he got it.
He made it work.
Oh, it's the Street Profits! Best ever, man.
The Street Profits, who I have not heard from or seen since. I watched some WrestleMania, no sign of the Street Profits.
They had a match at WrestleMania.
Not while your boy was watching.
Yeah.
I was late in the game.
Yeah, it was one of the first 2 matches on the second night.
Weird
so
that they weren't main eventing. They got them out of the way right at the beginning of the night.
Pick them out of a line.
Oh, it's the Street Profits! Finish the story, Cody. Just screaming at Cody Rhodes, Michael Cole, the best. Benjamin Solak joins us next. We also got a preview of Game 2 Caps Rangers and the Nats tonight on the Fan. from now, the Commanders are going to try to land a generational QB. Don't forget to think about your next generation. The exclusive sponsor of our show, the law firm of Condori and Murad, can guide you and your family in the right direction. They'll help you draft your will, set up a revocable trust, create a healthcare power of attorney, schedule a free consultation with their estate planning attorneys at kmlawyers.com, and be sure to tell them we sent you to get a discount. That's right. Mention G&D, get a discount. kmlawyers.com. Before we get out of here, in about 20 minutes, we've got a preview of Caps Rangers and Nats Dodgers coming your way right here on the Fan. But I'm fired up to have Benjamin Solak back on the show. He's outstanding, breaking the game down both analytically and with the film. You can check him out, does all of his work over at The Ringer. You can check out his NFL show as well. Benjamin, first, I've got to pick a bit of a nit with you, which is, I was watching one of your streams yesterday. I didn't realize how much you hated food. You literally said if you could touch a button every day and just be full and have your sustenance, you wouldn't eat anymore because you don't enjoy eating food. I'm paraphrasing.
I don't. That's because I didn't say I hate food, right? I said that eating is overrated, and that's what people are complaining. I certainly would still go to nice restaurants, eat great food. But if I could, on an average work day, circumvent the whole, I got to figure out what to eat for lunch, I got to figure out what to eat for breakfast, got to try to eat healthy, got to try not to spend too much money. It's all just an enormous headache. I would, 6 of the 7 days of the week, I would pass it by. I would treat myself with a nice dinner at a restaurant, 1 meal a week. Sounds ideal.
He's a take a pill, be full guy. It's like the year 20, like, I don't know, 2313 will be awesome for you. You know what I mean? Just like a ground up Soylent Green. You'll be all good.
I can't wait.
Appreciate you, dude. All right, let's get into the draft here at this stage. How much do you think the chaos that we're all thinking is going to happen actually happens? Because I feel like in years past, it felt like, oh, there's going to be a million trades, and then it always kind of lets down. Do you think it's going to be as chaotic as maybe folks are anticipating?
I think that it won't be as chaotic as we are hoping and expecting, but it will be more chaotic than usual. I had one of our research guys at The Ringer, a guy named Dan Comer, who's excellent. He found for me that the average number of traded picks show up in the top 10 in every draft. And the number is only 2.7. Only 2.7 out of the top 10 picks in every draft go to a team that doesn't belong to them. Right now in this draft, we already have one, right? The Chicago Bears are picking at 1 overall. It's not their pick. It's the Panthers pick. I think by the time we get through the top 10, I think we'll have 3. I think we'll have 4, potentially 5 picks made that are not the picks that belong to the original team. People who are expecting, a quarterback move up and then another quarterback move up and the Jets move up and then they go get their wide receiver and then the tackle. It's like there's probably not going to be that many fireworks, but I do think we're going to see a decent amount of movement here in the top 10. It's a weird class. It's very wide receiver heavy. It's very offensive tackle heavy. It's very quarterback heavy. Really light on pass rushers, defensive tackle, even corner. Like, it's fine, but it's not as good as it usually is. It's such a polarized class that teams are going to want to move. Because the guy that you like at 8 might be there at 15, and the guy that you need at 17 might only be there at 10. So I do think it's going to be an active draft night.
Ben, what does your quarterback board look like after all of your research and study?
Yeah, I think Caleb's the best quarterback in the class. I think Caleb would be the best quarterback in the class in most years. I think he's we throw generational around too often. I think he's an elite quarterback prospect. I think he's got multiple All-Pros to his name. I can't wait to see him in the league. Behind him, I do have Drake May. I think May's the second best. I understand some of the concerns, but I think the reward is so much worth the risk. The big plays that he gives you both with his arm, with his legs, the aggressiveness. You know that he has the play style and the physical toolkit to sustain a really explosive offense. I think May's second. McCarthy and Daniels is splitting hairs for me. I struggle with it every day. I flip-flop. I wishy-wash. The reality is that Daniels is a much higher ceiling and a much lower floor. And so when you're talking a top 5, top 10 pick, you probably want to roll the dice on the really high ceiling guy. You want those top tail outcomes that can really change your franchise. But there is a lot of risk with Daniels because of the age, because of the late breakout, the slight frame, the one read and scramble mentality. He does have a lot of red flags on his profile. So there's a lot of worlds where he's great. There's a lot of worlds where he's out of the league in 5 years. That's the challenge, measuring him to McCarthy, who just, I think, is a lot more steady. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league. I also think he has a good chance to be a starter for quite some time. great fan of Shanahan offense, has some good football ahead of him too because he's so young. I think he can develop into a nice, solid starter for you. So it's a little bit splitting hairs, picking your flavor with 3 and 4, but Caleb 1, Drake 2 for me. I'm pretty set on that.
Benjamin Solak, the ringer. So go back to May for a second. You said you understand the risks. Could you tell us what those risks with May are? And then also, if he maxes out, what does that look like?
Yeah, so with May, you have a really aggressive player. May likes to try to win the game on one play, and he does that too often. Now, I don't think he's in the red. Like, I don't think it's to the point of no return. Jameis Winston, he's going to throw 30 touchdowns, 30 picks. You're never going to be able to trust him. He's more like in the yellow. You just have to teach him how to dial it back a little bit. But he throws into windows he shouldn't throw it into, and accordingly, he gets passes broken up and intercepted. He holds onto the ball for longer than he needs to, trying to throw down the field, but he's got guys open underneath. He's just a big game hunter. And at his time at UNC, especially this final season, they had such a poor offensive line, and they didn't have good receivers. He kind of felt like he always needed to put the Superman cape on. Honestly, there were times that May, in this past season at UNC, reminded me of watching Josh Allen at Wyoming, where it was just like, hey, if I'm not the greatest player on the field right now, we're going to lose. So I'm just going to go out here and try to win the game in one play, right? So there's an aggressiveness that leads to some amazing inaccuracy. It leads to some of his footwork problems because he's just trying to hold his water there for as long as possible, create throwing windows that aren't there. You have to teach you how to dial that back. And that can be hard in the league because windows get smaller, movement gets faster, and stuff that you were able to get away with previously, you can't get away with anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised to see May have a little bit of that Josh Allen arc when he first got into the league and didn't look pretty at first, but then the light bulb came on. What can I get away with? What can't I get away with? Mechanics clean up a little bit. I think also like the rookie season of Trevor Lawrence and the early career of Trevor Lawrence is a good proxy for what May might be. Lawrence walked in the league and the physical talent was undeniable, but he was just throwing 25-yard seam balls, getting blown up by a linebacker. You're just like, dude, check it down. Get to 2nd and 6. You don't have to play like this anymore. I think that's sort of an arc for May is reasonable to expect, and accordingly, he can have a ceiling of players like Lawrence and players like Josh Allen in the league.
The Ringer's Benjamin Solak with us here on G&D. So the only reason, and it's a small margin here, we're talking about two guys that should absolutely go in the top 3 bench. So it's not like I think someone's a bum. The reason I prefer Daniels to May is with regards to May, I didn't watch near as much as you did. Obviously, I'm just a soft-body dude that likes sports. But I'm going, how could you miss that? You know what I mean? Like 10,000 quarterbacks in America can make that one. Now, they can't do the one where you're drifting to the right and you throw it 70 yards downfield across your body on the line, hitting some bum in stride. But the easy one, you're missing your check down by 10 yards or, you're totally inaccurate on something that was easy and right there. That's the one that I kind of scratch my head about with him. Your thoughts there?
Yeah. So here I'm gonna flip it a little bit. If you're gonna miss a throw, miss the easiest one because I can fix that. That ain't hard, right? I know for a fact that May is physically capable of hitting a slant route, right? It's when okay, like JJ McCarthy. When JJ throws outside of the numbers down the field, he misses regularly. And when you watch him, you go, okay, like he really is putting his whole body into trying to get enough velocity here, and the ball just dies on him. I don't think he'll ever be able to make this throw super accurately all the time. With May, I know for a fact that he's physically capable of making the throw. And so, okay, like this is an actual inaccuracy that's more fixable for me. I need you to be a little bit smarter with your feet and smarter with your base. I need you to be a little bit calmer in the pocket. And now he might not ever be the most accurate dude on a check down, but I will trade not the best check down passer for holy smokes, he can hit a window the size of a pinhole 30 yards down the field. I'll trade that any day of the week. I'll make that deal. It absolutely makes my offense a little bit more mercurial, makes it a little bit more up and down, which you don't love. You'd love to be a super reliable Patrick Mahomes can just nickel and dime you all the way down the field if you let him. You'd love to be that way. But you're always paying something to get something when it comes to quarterbacks. Play style and choices, there's always risk and there's always reward. If you think about like early Wentz, before the back injury, before Nick Foles, when Wentz looked like he was going to be the guy for the Eagles, Wentz had some of that to him, where he'd be like, dude, just be accurate, throw it to the back in space. But there's no reason for this to be a problem. But everything else that Wentz was doing with the running and then the tackle breaking and the throws down the field, it made it all worth it. And so I agree, it's annoying, but it's better than the alternative, where there's throws he's physically incapable of hitting. I've got a little bit of, I can fix that with Drake May.
Our guest is Benjamin Solak. Let's get to Jaden Daniels. So you referenced, you kind of go back and forth on him versus McCarthy in the 3 and 4 quarterback spots in this class. Means that you're lower on him than many are. So I guess first, why? And then also, as it pertains to, you mentioned like maybe the floor being lower and the ceiling being really high. Dive into the floor part of it, because we've had a bunch of people tell us they think that he's a safer pick than May, as an example.
Yeah, and that's, I understand that perspective. I really do, because when you go and there's fewer missed throws on Daniel's film than there is on May. For me, that when I go to find red flags on a quarterback's profile, right, the things that I look for, the first thing is I really want you to have an NFL size frame, because I'm worried about injuries piling up on you. And Jaden Daniels is just simply a really thin athlete for the position. Doesn't have a lot of body armor. You saw him take some devastating hits at LSU. I'm worried about his health long term, so that's there for me. I also really like guys who got good when they were younger, got good with less experience, because we've now seen a few dudes come out, thinking about a Kenny Pickett, thinking about Bo Nix in this year's class, guys who only got good after 40 career starts, after 45 career starts, when they were 3 years older, 4 years older than all the opponents that they were facing in college. And that's the case with Jaden Daniels. People bring up Joe Burrow and say, Joe Burrow was a transfer to LSU, and he got good at the end of his career. But Burrow didn't start at Ohio State. So the plays that he was taking at LSU, those were his first plays. Those were his first reps as a starter, as opposed to Daniels, who really only got good after accumulating a ton more experience than the other guys. And so that's a red flag for me. He played with 2 top 20 picks at wide receiver. He played with, in my opinion, 2 first-round picks, both at left tackle and at right tackle. That's not so much a red flag, but it does add to the question of, okay, why did you suddenly get good when everybody around you was really going to go top in the NFL? That makes me wonder how much of the pie belongs to you, right? And then the last thing with Daniels, and this is really the one that makes me shaky, I love mobile quarterbacks. I love quarterbacks with mobility. I was a Lamar guy. I was a Justin Fields guy. I love a runner. Usually, I like a running quarterback because he's able to eliminate negative plays with his legs. The biggest value of scrambling isn't just, ripping off those 50-yard runs against Alabama and Florida, but it's taking a sack, taking a play that would be 2nd and 17 and escaping it and getting to 2nd and 10 or getting to 2nd and 8. It's just erasing that negative play with your mobility. And Daniels, he's a great scrambler. He scrambles all the time. It's very dangerous, but he takes a ton of sacks. He doesn't do a good job eliminating the negative plays from the pocket. You'll see him panic in a little bit messy, but generally clean pockets all the time. That's another red flag for me, where I say, okay, I like mobility, I do, but you're not giving me what I need mobility to give me. You're not eliminating these negative plays in the pocket. I'm taking away these sacks. There's just a lot of flags that pop up on Daniel's film with the age, with the frame, with the play style, where I say, okay, I love the film. There's so much on the film to like. But history's taught us some things about quarterbacks. And some of the red flags that it's taught us are present on Daniel's profile. That's what makes me feel a little shaky.
So, Ben, here, I want to delve into that a little bit, because the pressure to sack percentage is alarming. It's basically a bunch of bad quarterbacks, and then Joe Burrow have had something similar in terms of that pressure to sack percentage profile. My nuance within there, though, is it's the fewest easy for me to say, yards lost per sack among any of this year's crop of quarterbacks, which tells that story about turning a terrible negative into, I guess, less of a negative. And his expected points added blow everybody else away. A lot of that's because of all the touchdowns, but it's also some of those things that are dead on arrival aren't anymore because of him, right? Isn't there some nuance in some of those pressures there, or does it not show up that way on film?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And there are high sack quarterbacks who have been really successful in the NFL because they make the juice worth the squeeze. Mm-hmm. This was Russell Wilson back in his prime, and even when he was a little bit past his prime, but he was still a high caliber athlete. This was Deshaun Watson with the Texans before the injury and everything that came with Deshaun. There were quarterbacks who were high sack rate quarterbacks who made it worth it because they were so doggone good when they were throwing the football, right? Or when they were scrambling. They every play was explosive enough. And listen, when you watch Jaden Daniels run, you're like, okay, this is not going to be a problem, right? This guy can fly. And so what you have to acknowledge when you're going through that process, when you're picking out that nuance, is that you are seeking a reason to believe that Daniels is an outlier. And that's fine, right? Mm-hmm. If Washington went through that process, and GM, head coach, OC, everybody came together and said, we believe in this cat, right? We think he is going to be able to overcome this historical red flag, then believe in what you got, take him with your chest out and ride with your guy. I've got no qualms about that. But you still have to know that that's what you're doing. You're hunting a reason to believe in a guy to be an outlier when it comes to this particular metric and this red flag that we found in the draft over the last 5-10 years. So just know what you're doing when you're doing it.
We have not talked about Penix or Nix. Penix, to me, is going to be fascinating. I could see him going top 10 in that 12-13 range if one of those teams doesn't come up. I guess he could also go much later in the first round. Where do you see him coming off the board? And then is it kind of a foregone conclusion that Bo Nix goes in the second round or no?
I'm suspicious that Penix goes round 1 just because we do this every year. I understand the reasons why. I wouldn't I wouldn't bother me too much if he went round 1. It's just every year we do this when we get close to the draft and we start to get the rumors. Oh, actually, this quarterback might go round 1. Or, the teams want the 5th-year option. I saw Peter Schrager said we're going to have 6 in the top 16. It feels like there's always power creep. It feels like every new report is just a little bit earlier the 5th guy's going, a little bit more confident the 6th guy's going. So to me, I always fade those reports. I always harbor doubt for that. Penix and Nix both can be successful in the right environments. I think those are guys that are going to have long careers in the league. There might be QB2s who are fringe QB1s, low-end starters, make Gardner Minshew careers, Jacoby Brissett careers on themselves. Maybe one of them Geno Smith. You never know. One of them Jalen Hurts is right. There's plenty of ways to go about it. Both are likable players. Just for me, if I'm drafting a quarterback round 1, I'm drafting a player that I anticipate handing the keys of my franchise to, whether that's day 1 or year 3, right? Whether that's Patrick Mahomes or Jordan Love, right? You're sitting the guy for a year. I anticipate giving him the keys over. And I don't feel that way about Penix or Nix because to me, they just don't have that level of talent, right? They're just not that caliber player. Penix was playing with the Super Friends. Like I talked about the LSU supporting cast. What Penix had with Washington was unbelievable. I think he was great at playing his role in the offense, kind of pointing and shooting, letting those receivers win downfield for him. When you kind of view him in a vacuum, I don't find him to be as impressive. I don't think he holds up as much. And then Nix is just like a coach's best friend. He'll do whatever you tell him to. He'll just take the check down, take the safe play, go through the progression. He won't hurt your offense. That's that ideal backup quarterback sort of mentality, right? He's super experienced, and he's not gonna neuter you, not gonna ruin your offensive system. And so both likable players, both read to me as much more so round 2 guys than they do round 1 guys.
Benjamin, quick transition here to the tackle spot. Where's the kind of line of demarcation for you between some of those top tier guys, maybe starters week 1 this fall, can be your linchpin left tackles for a decade, and then maybe more of a multi-year project? And again, thinking about Washington's needs here, and they got a couple second-round picks. Maybe they move up. Where's that kind of line of demarcation for you with this tackle market?
Great question. I'm not sure there is one. I mean, you can get starting caliber offensive linemen in day 2 of the draft. That has always been true, right? Now, certainly a left tackle, the premium position, it gets a little bit trickier. And you would prefer to be picking one of these top 10, top 15 guys over one of the back end guys, surely. And so I do think that Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, Felice Fuaga out of Oregon State, Olu Fashanu out of Penn State, J.C. Latham out of Alabama, Troy Fontenot out of Washington. I think those are your top 5. I think those guys are day 1 starters. And then once you get to the Amarius Mims out of Georgia, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, talk about a Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. Now we're introducing guys who are a little bit more, okay, maybe they're projects. But all of those dudes I just named, I would feel very comfortable putting out there at left tackle in week 1 for Washington. Because, 1, players get better when they play, right? We develop over time. Like, it is nice to get those reps under them. And secondly, those guys I named, you throw in a Kingsley Suamatai out of BYU, is a player I like a lot at the end of the first round. Those guys have multiple years of starting experience in college, and they held their water. They hung. They don't have the high ceiling that some of these early drafted players are going to have, maybe, or in the case where they are the high ceiling guys like an Amarius Mims, they only have 8 starts under them, so a little bit more uncertainty. But you could still hit on a day 1 starter plus year 1 player who has a decade of potential starting for the left tackle for the Washington Commanders. You can find that late round 1. You can find that early round 2 for the guys who don't go. Like, those players are available. In this tackle class, there is not a pick at which I would be like, oh, no, there's no tackle for me. There are so many dudes. And it's unbelievable tackle class. Washington's in a great spot to take a guy wherever he falls to them.
Benjamin, excellent information. Was looking forward to doing this. Thanks for the time, man, and enjoy the few days leading up to the draft now.
Of course, fellas. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.
See you, brother.
Be good. Check him out. The Ringers, Benjamin Solak on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. Danny's rocking his We've Got Wood t-shirt celebrating James Wood's pending arrival.
So that's what that meant.
Capital. We got a 106.7 The Fan merch shop. New gear in time for the baseball season. I yesterday was wearing my theme shirt for almost like a like an election.
It's a campaign.
The old Cruise Wood theme, but you've got the Cruise Missile shirts. We've got Wood. Go check it out at thefandc.com. Our whole collection with Breaking Tea. The 106.7 The Fan merch shop is up and running. Speaking of the Nats, let's get you the starting lineups and pitching matchup for tonight. presented by The Window Man. Since 1989, The Window Man has been the educational window company. Get your free, no pressure in-home estimate or at thewindowman.com Fairfax showroom.
Betting first, playing shortstop. See, Jake Abrams batting second in right field. Lane Thomas hitting third in left field. Jesse Winker. Cleanup hitter Joey Meneses of 0 home run fame. Riley Adams hitting fifth, doing the catching. Ildemaro Vargas batting sixth and playing third base. Nick Senzel's your designated hitter tonight. Luis Garcia batting eighth, playing second base, and Jacob Young in center field. That's Jacob Young in center.
I get that it's a lefty on the mound, so Garcia being in the lineup is probably a good sign. A little surprised to see him moved all the way down to the 8th spot, hitting almost 320 with an 820 OPS. You mentioned no home runs for Meneses. He and Ildemaro Vargas, the only of the regulars in the lineup, and Vargas isn't really one, but at times has played a bunch because of Abrams missing a few games and some injuries at third base. But those are the guys who have not yet homered among the guys that get some decent playing time. Meneses is at least driving and runs 8 RBI after a busy weekend with a couple big hits against the Astros. On the mound, Patrick Corbin, the 34-year-old lefty, final year of his contract. He's given up 4, 4, 7, and 5 runs in his 4 starts.
Sounds like a passcode.
Last time out against the Dodgers. Did pitch into the 7th, 9 hits, 5 earnings, so they will look for him to pitch better and get that ERA under 8 for the season, 8.06 right now.
James Paxton on the bump for the Dodgers, by the way. If he could ever stay healthy, he would be great. He can never stay healthy.
He is an incredibly gifted lefty, though. A 2.81 ERA for him on the season. Elsewhere tonight, when you're not paying attention to the Nationals, we got playoff hockey in the nation's capital. At Madison Square Garden in New York tonight, they'll drop the puck a little after 7 o'clock for the Caps and the Rangers. Let's give some keys to the game presented by Rude. Is your cooling system letting you down? Take a slap shot with Rude and experience peak performance. Dominate the season with unmatched cooling power and visit RUUD.com. If it ain't Rude, it ain't right.
To me, this is about slowing things down. You are not going to be able to match fire with the Rangers team that is more skilled, that's got more lethal offense. Muck this thing up, slow it down, get the puck deep, get pucks to the net, have enough whistles, stoppages of play, those sorts of things. Don't let them get in a rhythm. Don't let them have breakouts against you. Take care of the puck in your own end, clean exits. But to me, this has to be, you see the razor thin margin the Capitals are playing with, right? A 2-minute lapse is all it took for the Rangers to pile 3 goals on. You got to play tight. You got to play annoying, right? Maybe you can get on a couple power plays here and there, but just playing solid hockey.
Darius, I want you to play us out here in a minute with Talladega. I'm not a country music guy, but this is the Caps victory anthem, and I'm hoping to get a video from the team tonight of the players all singing it in unison like they're around a campfire after the game, like we got when they punched their playoff ticket with a win on the final day of the season against the Flyers. Couple of keys for me. Ovechkin, 0 shots on goal, needs to be more active, more involved. Top line in general, Ovechkin, McMichael, Oshie has to be just more active. You got to get more shots on goal from those guys. You've got to get more scoring chances at high danger from the top 6, frankly. That's also line 2. That's Dylan Strome, who led you in goals with players not named Ovechkin this year. Tom Wilson, Alexi Protas, who led them in shots on goal, mostly just throwing pucks toward the front of the net at the end of the game. He's expected to be skating on that second line. And then their best line for major stretches this season's been the 4th line, centered by our guy Nick Dowd. I love the way Nicholas Aube-Kubel is skating. Beck Malenstein is a grinder and is physical, and he hits and he blocks shots. That 4th line has to slow some of the Rangers' skill down a little bit. You saw the Rangers, their 4th line had 2 goals, including a fairly gameless big fellow who likes to fight, Rempe, who found a puck in front of the net and potted it. You just want a little more out of really top to bottom offensively, the group that was so quiet in the first game. And then defensively, we're going to see Lucas Johansson, who I think is going to wear 46 tonight, I saw. Get a sweater. He has played very minimally in his career in the National Hockey League. He's just a baby getting called up to make his postseason debut.
Enjoy that.
You've got McElrath, who's basically an AHL type, who's the captain of the Hershey Bears. Johansson, they'll team them up with the veterans. Funny to say a veteran with Alexiev and Trevor Van Riemsdyk.
Yeah, the old guys.
But it's going to be another 29, 30-minute night for Carly. A lot of Marty Faravari. You need Alexiev to make good decisions, stay out of the box. He took a penalty holding early in the game against the Rangers. So I'm worried about the defensive end, But this is what we said going into the Bruins game, if you remember.
Yes.
Toward the end of the year.
That's right.
What was the plan that night? Offense.
Mhm.
Best defense is going to be keep the puck, go to the other end of the ice. You got to find a way to do that. And that power play looked terrible in game one. Hopefully they figured something out.
Agreed. Yeah. Credit to the Rangers there too for being disruptive, but it looks like the Caps had no answer to that, right? Maybe you punish them for overcommitting here and there. But to me, I think, again, if you try to get a little up and down, I think you're in trouble. So to me, this has got to be a gross game. I think that favors the Caps.
All of our Caps playoff content today was brought to you by PVI Office Furniture. Get to their showroom in Frederick, Maryland today. Score big with their Power Play Playoff Special. They're giving you 20% off your new office chair. Fast, excellent, affordable. Business grows with PVI. For Darius, Ryan, and Danny, I'm Grant saying so long. Awesome DC Sports Night. Let's go 2 for 2 tonight.
Here we go. Let's go, boys.
Caps, the priority. Kind of like a Nats win over the Dodgers as well. We're back at it at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Got a great show planned for you as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft.
Here's to turn it up, slowing down, because it goes real fast. We were laughing and living and drinking and wishing, thinking as that checkered flag was waving. Sure like to stay Talladega.
I'm Earl Forsey. Here's what's happening. Only half an hour away from the Stanley Cup playoffs resuming for the Caps. They're trying to even their series tonight against the Rangers in New York. Tom Wilson knows they simply have to be better than they were Sunday.
We definitely hold ourselves accountable. We know when we're playing well. We know what we need to do. There's no feeling sorry for yourself right now. It's a long series. There's lots of hockey.